Hi everyone, it's Yvonne Britton here, and today I am joined by Kelsey Voller. Hi Kelsey, thanks for joining us.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you and to join you in this interview.
Thank you. Kelsey, could you start by just telling us what you do?
Yes, so I'm an intuitive health practitioner. I help people to apply the medical medium information to rebuild their health naturally. So to go after the root causes by healing from the inside out.
Oh, thank you, and I know that's much needed nowadays. How did you come across Anthony yourself? What's your own personal experience there?
Yeah, so actually years ago, I had heard about Anthony and I was a big science girl, right? My bachelor's is in biology, my master's is in functional medicine and human nutrition. So I was really in the science world. And so when I saw when I learned of Anthony, I was really skeptical, very, very skeptical. And so I heard about him, but I didn't really look into him until I had a couple of my clients um, come to me over the course of a year and say, hey, have you heard about Anthony William? Have you read this book, Medical Medium? I really think it's something you should look at. And so I was resistant for a long time. And eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to read his book and just see. Right. And so I found his book. I read it. I opened the page to read, I was going to read like a chapter. Right. And I start reading this book and I ended up reading the whole book over 2 days. And as I was going through, what I realized is everything that he was talking about was totally spot on. It was everything that I had learned from my body from the past 10 years of being chronically ill and trying everything out there and finding some things worked and some things didn't. And my body always told me what was the truth, right? Because they would help me get better. But I hadn't put together all of the little pieces. And when I read his book, it was like aha moment after aha moment. And I knew I had come to finally like a comprehensive answer to what I needed to get better.
And what's your own story with like chronic health issues? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. So for me, my chronic health, yeah, yep.
Okay.
So for me, my chronic health issues started all the way back when I was a little kid. I actually don't ever remember not having constipation. Ever since I was like a toddler, I would need laxatives and was having a bowel movement once a week. And that's not normal and not good for the human body, right? So I started off with smaller symptoms, right? Like constipation doesn't, debilitate you, but it can be really uncomfortable. As I got older and through elementary school and high school, that's when my symptoms started to really impact my quality of life. It was the little things at first. Like I said, it was constipation, and then it was ingrown toenails that were always swollen and hurting. And then it was all of a sudden my stamina was not there. I couldn't run. I couldn't do things without having a lot of discomfort and totally crashing afterwards. I mean, feeling like my body ached all over and it was painful. There was little things that started to build up even more to where in high school, my periods became extremely heavy, painful. I had a lot of clotting, heavy flow. And it really got to the point where I almost had a hysterectomy because the pain was so bad. And of course, I tried birth control pills, I tried all these different things, and nothing was helping. Fast forward a few years, and things went even more down the drain for me. So I ended up having chronic yeast infections that became constant. I had chronic bladder infections that became interstitial cystitis. I had endometriosis, and I also had celiac disease and was reacting very severely to gluten, dairy, latex, like a Band-Aid, anything like that. All of a sudden, my skin would break out from touching different things, like even wearing jeans with a button that's metal. I would get a breakout there and I would get itchy and it would hurt. But it was autoimmune diagnosis after autoimmune diagnosis for me until, I had this list of probably 8 different diagnoses of autoimmune disease where I went, okay, something's really wrong.
Mm-hmm. And did you, so you managed to get through that before you found Anthony's information, or?
No. So I kind of, I think anybody can relate to this is when you're going through it, you're like, okay, what's going to help me, right? So the first thing I did is I went through the conventional medicine system, and I went to the experts, the specialists, and hoped that they could help me, and kind of expected that they were going to have the answers. And so when I went to them, though, what they told me was, this is going to be lifelong. We're just going to manage these symptoms with prescription medications. And I was 20 years old. Like when I heard that as the answer, I was like, that's not an answer for a 20-year-old. I can't, if I'm here at 20 on, 10 prescription medications and how many diagnoses, what am I going to be like at 30, 40, and 50? It just didn't seem right to me. And intuitively, I was like, there has to be a reason why this is happening, right? Management's, the reason they say we have to just do management is because they said they don't know the root cause. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, then that's where I need to go. I need to find the root cause. So then I turned to functional medicine, and, it was better because they at least acknowledged that food was important, right? Mm-hmm. In conventional medicine, they said it doesn't matter what you eat. To me, that's what they said. It doesn't matter what you eat, won't affect your autoimmune diseases. So when I got to functional medicine, it was a breath of fresh air because at least they acknowledged that food was important. So I did a paleo diet for a couple of years, and it helped a little bit in certain ways, but it was like some symptoms got better and some symptoms got worse. So it was like a mixed bag. And so, I would go back to my practitioners and they're like, okay, well, let's try this. Let's try the autoimmune paleo diet. So I did that for, I think, 2 years, and again, had some improvement, but definitely didn't get my quality of life back. And it was at that point that actually my health pretty much collapsed, and I had to quit my job mid-year. I was a science teacher, and I literally couldn't get out of bed, and I was getting these really high fevers, and I really couldn't keep my eyes open most of the time. It literally felt like there was weights on my eyelids. And lifting my arms just felt like I was lifting, 100-pound bags to just lift my hand up. So when my health crashed, I was like, okay, paleo can't be the answer because it hasn't worked for me, and autoimmune paleo isn't the answer. It helped a little, but I'm now debilitated. This can't be the full answer. And that's when I turned to naturopathic medicine and, did homeopathy and, did a low FOD MAPS diet. I mean, I tried everything. I did energy medicine. And so when that client brought the book Medical Medium to me, that's when I had already tried all of those things. I tried conventional medicine, functional medicine, naturopathic medicine. I mean, I kind of been around the block a few times. And so when that book came to me, I was like, fine, I'll read it because I've tried everything else. And when I opened it up, like I said, it was like, no, this is it. I know this is going to be it. I know it's not going to be fast, but I know that this is the answer. And so over the next, now it's been 5 years, that I've been following the medical medium information and applying it to my body. That's where I finally was just getting better and better versus things getting better and things getting worse. Things just kept getting better for me when I applied the medical medium information.
So what were so this is when it gets really exciting. So what were the kind of main things that you did that you felt the impact or you noticed the improvements? What were the first improvements, and what would you tie it back to if you could tie it back to something?
Yeah. So when I started my medical medium journey, I had a practitioner mindset already. So I knew it wasn't going to be about finding the right protocol. I knew it was going to be about listening to my body and applying the medical medium information to my unique needs. And I knew that those needs were going to change as my body was healing. Mm-hmm. So what I did first was I brought in the heavy metal detox smoothie. And that's not because that's the right first step for anybody. It's just for me, that felt like the right first step for me because I knew I had a lot of heavy metal issues.
Mm-hmm.
And just bringing in the detox smoothie was scary to me because I was totally immersed in fruit fear, right? Like
Okay.
conventional medicine, functional medicine, all of them, they're so scared of fruit. And I hadn't been eating fruit for the past couple of years because I was actually a pre-diabetic. And so I was really nervous bringing in fruit. And so instead of just changing my diet totally, the first thing I did was just add in this heavy metal detox smoothie, which had 2 bananas and the juice of an orange, which felt like a lot of fruit to me. So I just started with that. And actually, within the first month, I, like my yeast infections, which had been continuous for, at that point, it was probably 6 years, continuous yeast infections, they cleared after a month with the heavy metal detox smoothie. And that blew my mind because I had been on so many different medications and antifungals, and eventually they just like gave up because we just couldn't get it under control. And all of a sudden, you know, I bring in fruit, which is supposed to make yeast infections worse, right? But I brought in fruit and my yeast infections were getting better because I was doing it within, you know, the detox smoothie, which was taking out the heavy metals, which was part of the problem with why I had yeast infections chronically and continuously. So that was really huge. I should also say, so going into it, because I was a pre-diabetic, I was really nervous about bringing in fruit and how it would affect my blood sugar. So being the science girl that I am, I went and had my lab test done for my insulin and my glucose and my hemoglobin H1C. I did those things before I started the heavy metal detox smoothie because I was curious and I wanted to know, you know, how is this going to affect my blood sugar? So after a couple of months doing the heavy metal detox smoothie, my HbA1c, my glucose, my insulin were all improving markedly. And I think I think it was about 4 to 6 months, I was out of the pre-diabetic category, which I had been in and getting worse, very consistently getting worse for the past 5 years. So it was mind-blowing to me.
Was it not just like really exciting, or like, oh my god, how much better can I get now that you?
Yeah, I mean, it blew my mind. The fruit part really blew my mind because I just had always just believed, just assumed that, okay, any fruit sugar, any sugar is bad, right? And when I, you know, saw how my body was responding to fruit and responding to the heavy metal detox smoothie, it made me go, wow, if this is incorrect, what else have I been assuming about, you know, about this healing journey that is also incorrect? And so really, it got me really excited to dig deeper with the medical medium information and see where there was maybe something that I had been misled before about. And that's where I moved into really understanding autoimmunity and understanding that my body was not attacking itself. My body was not attacking itself. There was a pathogen issue that was behind my symptoms. It wasn't that my immune system was haywire, that I just had a faulty body. There was a reason, there was a root cause behind why there was attack in my body, and it was because there was a pathogen there. There was viral issues and bacterial issues that are so tiny they don't show up on the tests, right? Because these tests only look at what's in your bloodstream. They don't look at what's in your organs, what's in your deep tissues. And that was the next like aha for me, was realizing, oh my gosh, my body's not attacking itself. The reason I have all these autoimmune diagnoses is because I have a pathogen issue and it's continuing to move further into my body and cause problems because I'm not going after the pathogens. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It must
Yeah.
be. I've never had autoimmune, but I can imagine like finding that out. It must be such a huge sense of relief, know that your body is actually not attacking itself, and then empowering at the same time to know that you can do something about it. No.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it really shifted my perspective on food because I had believed that there were inflammatory foods and good foods, right? And what I realized is there's not really so much inflammatory foods as there are foods that feed pathogen issues. which is why, because it always was crazy to me how some people could eat gluten and dairy and not have a reaction. And then there's me eating gluten and dairy and having horrible reactions, right? Like even the tiniest amount of cross contamination and I would get extremely ill. So I was like, well, how can the food itself be like fundamentally inflammatory if everybody's reacting differently?
Yeah.
And when I understood that the pathogens are eating those foods, they're being fueled by those foods, it finally made sense why different people would react to different foods depending on the pathogens at play and how many pathogens are at play, like what the pathogen load is. And so for me, when I had that aha moment, I was like, there's a solution to this for me. It's understanding which pathogens I have and then getting my pathogens, the loads down. And what was really amazing and just solidified this for me. So about 2 years ago now, so I've been gluten-free and dairy-free for about 10 years. As soon as I found out that I had celiac, I was gluten-free, dairy-free, and even the slightest bit of cross-contamination would make me ill. And it wasn't in my head. Like there would be times, I remember once I was at home and my dad had used a spatula to turn over a bun. And then he'd use that same spatula to bring me my food. And I didn't see this happening, right? But I ate my food and I had a major reaction. And I was like, I don't know where this would have come from. Like, this is so crazy. And my dad was like, I'm so sorry. I know where it came from. I turned over a bun. So that happened enough times where I knew I was super, super sensitive to gluten, dairy. So after being on a medical medium protocol for 3 years, right? And so in my head, before medical medium, I was like, oh, well, gluten and dairy are inflammatory foods. So 3 years into medical medium, I went to a wedding and I ordered what I thought were vegan mashed potatoes. And man, those potatoes tasted amazing.
Yeah.
And so, and I had a little bit of bloating from it, but just like almost no reaction to these vegan potatoes. And so I went back up and I asked, I was like, hey, can I have some more of those vegan mashed potatoes? And they said, oh, we don't have vegan mashed potatoes here. The mashed potatoes we have are full of dairy. And I was mind blown. I was like, you have to have vegan mashed potatoes because I would have reacted horribly if there was dairy in it. And I didn't react horribly because I had finally gotten my pathogen load down enough where there wasn't enough, pathogens to cause a major reaction to the dairy. Not that I would ever choose to eat dairy again. That was a big whoops, but it was so amazing for me to see that it wasn't that the dairy wasn't the problem. My pathogen load was the real problem.
Yeah. And so you did the heavy metal detox at that time. Were you already plant-based and then, yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't. I was, I grew up on a ranch. And so I had grown up eating meat 2 to 3 times a day. And the thought of being plant-based was really overwhelming to me. And so I started with the heavy metal detox smoothie. Like I said, I was already gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free, but meat was something that I was eating a lot of. And so after I saw my results with the heavy metal detox smoothie, I was on board 100%. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so that's when I shifted my diet and I just reduced my meat over a couple of months until it was totally out of my diet. And then for the next, ever since then, I have been plant-based and low fat.
Okay. And yeah, well, congratulations, first of all. That's an amazing journey that you've had, and you're so young you're so lucky as well to have found Anthony, and to be on the other side. What about celery juice?
Yeah, so I was actually really resistant to celery juice because I was raised eating like pizza and burgers and, just like I hadn't had a lot of vegetables in my diet growing up. And so celery juice just really scared me. I was like, that just sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But when I started seeing the results with the heavy metal detox smoothie and, going plant-based and reducing my fat intake, I was like, okay, I know that this celery juice will help me, so I want to do it. So I brought in celery juice, and I've been on celery juice now for, gosh, like 4 years, 3 or 4 years. And I do it every day, if not twice a day sometimes. Just it fluctuates with what my body needs, but celery juice absolutely helped me so much with my digestion.
And do you do lemon water before your celery juice?
Yeah, so I'll just give you a little rundown. So what I do now, and this has changed, like as I go through each step of my journey, what my body wants and what my body's craving changes. And so intuitively, I adjust things for what my body needs. But staples that have always been part of my protocol have been lemon water in the morning, sometimes 16 ounces, sometimes 32 ounces of lemon water, depending on how much I feel like I need. Then I do my celery juice. Sometimes that's 8 ounces, sometimes it's 16, sometimes it's 30 ounces. It really depends on what my body is telling me it's ready for. And then I do my heavy metal detox smoothie, or I do the liver rescue smoothie. In the past, I've done the thyroid healing smoothie as well. And then I eat plant-based. I eat a lot of fruit, a lot of veggies, a lot of potatoes, which I used to be scared of as well. I eat a lot of really yummy food that's plant-based.
Okay, and did you ever go through like any kind of anxiety either before you started or while you were going through because you must have detox now when you started
Yeah.
everything. Did you ever have that side of things where you experienced any kind of anxiety or like feeling down as you went through it?
Oh my gosh, all the time. All the time. I feel like a lot of stories, they're like, oh, it was just so wonderful. No, I definitely had tough times. And it required a lot of faith for me, a lot of faith in my body and a lot of faith in the process of healing, and knowing that it's not always going to like be linear and just look better and better and better. So for me, there were times where, if I was detoxing too intensely, my body would give me feedback, right? Your body gives you feedback on what it needs and what it can handle. So if I would do a little bit too much detox, I would have a flare of my depression. So I would all of a sudden, it'd be like, oh, why do I not have any will to get out of bed? And that was really hard. And what I learned is that there was ways to catch subtle ways my body was telling me slow down before getting a depression flare. But it took me some time to learn the ways that my body was whispering to me and to catch those whispers before they turned into screams. But there was definitely times where, I would overdo it and I would have a little depression flare, or I would overdo it and I would be super tired, or get some headaches, or have anxiety. And just to kind of go over a list of things that I've gotten better from, like I said before, celiac disease, having like really, really strong reactions to gluten, dairy, latex, all of that. And Raynaud syndrome, my fingers would turn blue. After I would eat, I would get so cold, I would literally be shivering. And when they would take my temperature, it would be hypothermic. Literally, my body would go hyperthermic or hypothermic. And I would literally have to shower after each meal and run my hands under hot water because I was so incredibly cold. Like it was painful how cold I was. Like I said, endometriosis, I was having such excruciating pain with my periods. I remember one time I was, like the pain hit, I just went down on the floor and I just begged my mom to knock me out because I was like, I literally can't handle this pain. It was so intense. And so for years and years, when I would get my period, I couldn't go to work. I literally was completely debilitated by the pain of my periods. And my uterus would swell so much that it actually hurt my skin because it was so tight from the swelling. I was passing clots with my period that were the size of the palm of my hand. These were not like little things. I also, like I said, had interstitial cystitis. And so I would have severe pain with my interstitial cystitis where I literally, my body would be heaving because of the amount of pain. and with interstitial cystitis, it feels like you have a bladder infection, and you go in and get checked and they're like, well, there is no bladder infection. So it's really, really debilitating to not have an answer for those feelings that you're having. So for me, I had so many different things going on. I was having heart palpitations. They started out happening every once in a while, and they got to the point where I was having about 8 or 9 of them per day. And that was really scary as well, because I didn't know why my body was doing that, right? Like I had my heart checked out and it looked fine, yet my heart was having these major palpitations to the point where it felt like my heart stopped for a second, like you're breathing and everything just pauses. And it's really scary when that happens. I had insomnia, which was so hard. Like anybody with insomnia, my heart goes out to them, because like you're so tired, but you can't sleep. I had restless leg, which sounds like it's not a big deal, but it literally felt like something was crawling under my skin. I literally remember crawling up the wall, like turning and just trying to find some sort of comfort to calm my body so I could sleep. I had panic attacks and anxiety and depression that were, at times they were really debilitating. I remember waking up some mornings and just, having the suicidal thoughts. And they weren't my thoughts. Like I knew I didn't want to die, but things were so imbalanced in my body that, these thoughts would come up, and it was just really unsettling. Some other symptoms that I dealt with were psoriasis and little bits of eczema. I also had a lot of acne going on. And, what was really hard as well was throughout this whole thing, my chronic pain and my chronic fatigue, those were the debilitating symptoms for me. I had hypermobility, so like I can, put my thumb to my wrist and things like that. But my hypermobility doesn't bother me now. Back then it caused me so much pain. Even if I would forget and I would like lean on something, like lean on my arm, it would like get stuck there and it would be so painful. And with the chronic fatigue, like I said, my body would just feel so heavy. It was like I couldn't lift my limbs, or I couldn't open my eyes. And that was so hard, because having that kind of fatigue, I'm a person who likes to do things, and I didn't feel well enough to even like listen to a podcast. Like my brain was not available to me, and emotionally, socially, physically, it was hard on all of those levels, having that chronic fatigue and the chronic pain. The other thing is, like, I still do this with my hand. So at a certain point, I'd always had painful joints, but I didn't really even know that I had painful joints, because that was my experience of life for so many years. But at a certain point, I lost use of my right hand, and I'm right-handed. It literally, all of a sudden my hand just curled up into a fist, and it was so painful I couldn't even touch my hand. It just felt like knives were going into every part of my joint, and I couldn't open it at all. Like the slightest movement of my hand was so excruciatingly painful. And that was also, when I started medical medium, I got my hand back, and that was huge. Like I said, I still do this because it just blows my mind that I have my hand again. I have the use of my hand.
I just can't believe that what you're saying is, like, to see you now and what you're explaining, it's like, oh my God, is that the same person,
Yeah, it's so crazy. And, what's really hard is, I wish I had some pictures now of some of those really tough times, and I don't. I have some pictures, but they're from like when I actually had hope that I would get better. When you're deep in chronic illness, debilitating chronic illness, you're not taking pictures for before and afters.
No, God, no.
You're questioning whether you're going to make it through the next day, right? And that was me. Like there's literally years, there's periods where there's no pictures of me, because I didn't want to look at my body, because it was just so painful to see what was happening. And how, at such a young age, I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
It was just so hard to feel like I was falling apart when everybody else was starting their life. It does. It blows my mind that I'm fully functional again. And not only that, I live independently. I work full time. I have quality of life again. I wake up before my alarm clock goes off. That just like is crazy to me. All of those things, like it took time to get here, right? It took years of applying the medical medium information to get to this level of strength, right? And vitality. But when I look at where I started, it blows my mind that I'm here, that I'm alive, and that instead of getting worse and worse, I'm getting better and better now. Like I'm going in the direction that I wish everybody had the option to go in this direction, right? But you have to find the medical medium information. You have to be committed and stick with applying it to yourself and listening to your body for a long period of time when you're sick like I was. For instance, I didn't mention all my symptoms because I had so many, but I had hypothyroidism as well. And so I was on medication for my thyroid for about 4.5 years. And there was a couple of times where my doctor was like, I think we need to reduce your medication. And we would reduce it a little bit and I would be bedbound, completely like not able to function at all, not able to take care of myself at all. Fast forward to finding the medical medium information, it took 2 years, but I was able to get off of my thyroid medication completely. And that's just amazing to me. Amazing that, whereas before I needed it just to be even like a basic functioning human being. And over time on the medical medium lifestyle, I was able to totally get off of this medication. I mean, it was amazing.
I think what you've done for yourself is amazing, because like to be that bad, but to still have the mental strength to go in. I mean, not a lot of people just give in because it's not easy to make the smoothie when you don't feel like it, or Celery is just like, what is this, so I really admire you for your strength, determination, and just to be able to do it. I wanted to ask though, did you work alongside with someone, like a practitioner yourself, when you were going through it?
Yeah. So when I was at my worst, I had given up on practitioners because I still had, my doctor that I would see every year to just make sure everything was okay, and, monitoring my thyroid medication, for example. But in terms of practitioners, I, kind of everybody gave up on me. And so and I should say also, because I had a graduate degree in nutrition and functional medicine, I also, I had a different level of understanding to apply the information for myself. But I did at one point work with Manisa. And so she really provided me with a few insights that I was like, these few things are really, sticking points that I'm not figuring out. And that was really helpful. And so when I was at my sickest and I had a really hard time strategizing and doing like deep thinking, it was great to have Manisa helping me with that and collaborating with me with my health journey. It was really helpful to have that, guidance when I needed the support brain-wise.
Yeah, she's very good. I was her client as well for a time. So how does that, I mean, I can just imagine how that helps you to help others now, the job that you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the greatest gift for me in being as sick as I was is I get it. Like, I get what it's like to live with these symptoms. I get what it's like to go to like be in the trenches, right? It's not like I understand these issues from reading them in the book. I understand these issues from experiencing them and experiencing the path that that you go through getting better. And it's not an easy path. It's not a simple path. But it's a doable path when you have the right information.
And I think the thing that you must give to your clients is, having been there, is the sense of hope that that you can do it.
Yeah, and it's such a big part that I think almost gets underplayed a little bit, is how much commitment and faith it takes to do this work of healing. it's really hard. It's not, like I said, it's not linear. It's not like you just feel better and better every day. It's that over, weeks and months of time, things get better. But you're still going to have hard days. For me, when I had a depression flare, the first time it happened, I was in a victim mindset, and I was like, why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. Like, I feel awful. This is so hard. And I had to make a lot of mindset shifting to get to where I am. So one big shift was when I would have a flare, instead of doing the whole woe is me victim thing, I started going, oh, my body's giving me feedback. Something must need to change. What needs to change? What is my body saying? And that sounds subtle, but it's so big to be moving from being a victim to being constructive with your healing journey. And instead of like getting mad at your body for what it's doing, listening and going, oh, body, you're trying to tell me something. What is it? What are you trying to tell me? What do I need to do differently? There was such a big mindset shift for me to change the way I reacted to what was happening to me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And how do you typically work with clients? Do you do one-on-one? Do you do courses? And how do you each one works?
Yeah. So I work with clients one-on-one. I do 2-hour initial consults with people because I set up my practice to be comprehensive enough for the tough cases, because that was me. I was a tough case. There's the people who can drink celery juice for 2 weeks and feel better, and that's amazing, and I'm so happy for them. But then there's the complex cases that have been, have gone through so much for so many years and have tried so many things. And for them, they have to get enough stuff right to feel better. And that was for me too. I couldn't just do paleo and get better. I couldn't just do AIP and get better, or low FODMAPs and get better. I needed to have everything really comprehensive. And so when I work with clients, I spend over an hour preparing before the session, going through their intake form. And my intake process is pretty comprehensive. But it's like I get to have a conversation with them before we even meet. And then when we do have our consult, over those 2 hours, we really go strategy level. We prioritize, okay, what is your body saying it needs the most? What is your body saying has accumulated and it needs to be addressed? So we look at deficiencies and accumulations. We look at what the body needs most, and then we prioritize in terms of, we have a discussion about supplements and about food and about, the medical medium drinks like the heavy metal detox smoothie and celery juice and cucumber juice and aloe water and, turmeric ginger shots, on all of that. And we look at what does your unique body need most right now? And I think that's like, what's hard for people to understand is there's not one right protocol. It's a matter of figuring out what your unique body needs right now, and then knowing how to listen to your body. And that's what I help my clients do. I help them learn how to listen to their body and use their body's feedback to guide their next steps, right? Because people are like, I don't know what I should be doing, when I should be increasing things. Your body's going to give you feedback. And, it's almost like I feel like an interpreter, that I help you learn how to listen to your body and listen for the subtle ways that your body's saying, hey, increase this. Hey, I need some of this. So that's what I do with clients in the one-on-one sessions is help them to learn how to listen to their bodies and honor what their body needs at that moment. The other thing that I do is online courses. And in those courses, it's the same thing in that I'm helping you strategize. Like, I'm helping with strategy level thinking about the way to apply the medical medium information. The books are out there. You have the medical medium information. I think where people get stuck is, how do you apply the medical medium information? And so what I do in my courses is I help you learn how to listen to your body, understand what your body is communicating to you, and use that information to inform what you do with the medical medium information, how you apply the medical medium information.
I love that you do it, because I was one of these people. I do see a lot of people, they take the information and they might apply it all at the same time, or or take just really, you know, way too many supplements, or they're,
Yeah.
you know, they're very passionate about it, and they just do too much, and you can make yourself worse. I know there was a time where I was taking far too many supplements, and I would always recommend that, you know, unless you have that way of thinking that you can recognize, you know, like today I'm not going to have so much celery because, you know, my body is like telling me like it can only take this much. Um, if you're not in, if you're not in that kind of like moment, then I think it's really good to have someone, especially like you, to say what's your body saying, you know, like,
Yeah, that's the thing I tell people is I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not telling you, oh, this is the right way to do things. I'm just helping you to start understanding what your body is saying to you, because your body is communicating to you through your bowel movements, through your skin, through your sleep, through your, you know, your emotions. Like your body is giving you a lot of feedback through your periods, through, you know, headaches, migraines, whatever it is. Your body is giving you feedback to tell you what it needs and to tell you when you're doing too much. But the tricky part is understanding what your body's saying and catching what your body's saying, because we're used to kind of ignoring those things. So yeah, it's about learning how to listen to your body and let your body guide your process.
yeah, and it's like the magic of it as well. You know, it's the magical part, because that's kind of like the freebie that you get with the process, no? Because that you get for life. You know, you get the knowledge for life, but the interpreting your body, and I mean that's quite magical. Once you get it, you get it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like once you have that skill set, you get to use that skill set for the rest of your life. I was just saying yesterday or 2 days ago now, I had a sore throat, like a little bit of a sore throat. And because I knew how to catch it when it was just faint, and I knew what my body was telling me, I knew how to intervene right then and there. And I didn't end up getting sick. You know, I woke up the next morning, it was gone. Whereas in the past, I was a workaholic and I would just work, 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 push, push, push. I would not listen to what my body was telling me. And frankly, I didn't know what it was telling me because I just hadn't learned that. And so, you know, I would get a sore throat and it would turn into strep throat and I would have 104 fever. That happened to me multiple times in my adult life. So it's amazing when you learn how to slow down and listen to your body, what it will tell you and how it impacts your quality of life, right? Like I didn't have a sick day because I didn't need a sick day because I could listen to my body and catch things when they were little, right? And I'm going to have that skill set for the rest of my life. And, you know, when I have kids, I'm going to be able to pass that skill set on to them, which is huge. Like we should all have this skill set. And I wish they taught it to us in elementary school and high school, because that would just change the whole world, right? But learning how to listen to your body is, to me, it's such an invaluable tool.
And it's just so empowering, I think. And then
Yeah.
it kind of like goes into other aspects of your life as well, you know, like it's not just what you eat, it's everything.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really wonderful talking to you again. Congratulations on what you've done for yourself, and how that translates into you helping other people. You're really doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for creating the space here for us to talk about my experience and share that with anybody who might be having a hard time and, you know, kind of feeling drained of faith. Just know that there's hope. And, you know, I was a really tough case. I don't know how many doctors told me, oh, this works for everybody. I can't believe it didn't work for you. If I can get better, anybody can get better.
Oh, that's a lovely message. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Heal with Kelsey. You can also find me at my website, which is also www.healwithkelsey.com.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye for now.